Hey everybody, Average Picker here. So I did not get a picking video out yesterday, and I'm going to show you why. I spent a lot of yesterday trying to figure out this lock, Neogor. I don't know if that's exactly how you pronounce it. That's how I'm pronouncing it. You can see he's quite proud of his lock. And this is basically kind of a knockoff generic security lock, I suppose, but it is still quite a tough pick. It has a C rating, which puts it way up there. So it's, you can find these on eBay. They're a little off the beaten path, and they're pretty interesting. Not an easy pick either, and they're pretty cheap because they are kind of generic. So originally, it has this thing. It says 6 side locking, side column lock core. And that kind of threw me off a little bit. I thought it had 12 maybe sliders in it, and then I started thinking yesterday it had 6. And it turns out though this picks closer to Smart Key as far as tensioning and stuff goes. And I want to give a big shout out before I forget to Urban Hawk, because Urban Hawk really helped me out with this, because I had a bit of a gutting disaster in trying to see how this lock worked, and Urban Hawk managed to at least confirm for me that I had recovered all the parts, and kind of talked me through a little bit about how the lock works. So Urban Hawk, I don't know if you watch my videos, I don't think you do, but big shout out, kudos to you. I really appreciate that. You have no idea. Yeah. So Urban Hawk's he's incredible. And you want me to ramble for a moment? Before I was into lockpicking even, I used to watch some videos from like DEF CON and security conventions, that kind of thing. And I'd actually seen Urban Hawk do some talks before. I had no idea it was the same Urban Hawk as the one I communicate with on the Discord at first. And it was really cool to find that out. It's I don't want to say it's a bit like meeting a hero, but it's like, oh man, I don't know. There is that aspect to it. Very cool, and I appreciate all the help. But let's flip the camera around. I'm going to show you this lock, at least in the state that it's in, because it is kind of interesting, and it'll give you a chance to take a look at the guts of it, at least. So let's flip the camera. Okay, so this mess is just one side of the lock, and I managed to preserve the interior side, right? So this would have been the exterior side of the door, and thankfully, yeah, I did preserve that. Now, what I was not expecting was when I took this bar off, for that to immediately appear, and stuff started popping out of there, and I was like, oh no, what's going on? Now, this gets interesting. So I had 2 sets of keys that came with this. So I had a set that is still in their box, and I had this loose pair. Now normally when they're done like this, these would be your construction keying keys, and these would be your resident homeowner or property owner keys or whatever, right? Which means that these would be construction bitted, and that construction bitting would take place in this hole, which the smaller interior side does not have. However, and the way this works is inside here there would be a pin stack and a spring and a ball bearing and spring, and then the construction key should have a hole in it, or is it in this one? One of these locks should have a hole in it. One of these keys should have a hole in it, that then when the person takes control of the property, kills the construction key. But I'm not sure which way it goes. I think it's this one has the hole in it, but you can see mine does not, and that's because this is the cheaper version that is not actually construction keyed, but it does have the hole for it, and that was part of my confusion, because I was able to see that there were pins and springs in this too, but I was only recovering 2 from here and not anything from that chamber. This is also where on the core that construction key would interact with. So this is the core that we've got, and it is held on through there using the C-clip down here, and it goes through there. And there's our sidebar, and you can see it's grooved on the inside and just pretty much flat rounded on that one, and it sits inside there like that. This is a reverse sidebar, apparently, a reverse locking sidebar. I'll confess, I do not quite understand reverse sidebars. It kind of takes me a little bit to wrap my head around how they work. I'm not going to try to explain it because I'll probably just get tongue-tied and blunder some aspect of it. Now inside, what it has are 12 of these. And I'm not even sure what we can call these. I mean, they're they're basically sliders, but they're more like gates almost. I'm almost more prone to calling them gates. And you can see the cuts when those align. So we're talking about those grooves there. It enables the sidebar to drop down into it. Now, these all actually share these chambers. So we have 6 chambers, but we have 12 sidebars. And we only have 6 springs. So each of these sidebar gate things share a spring and a chamber. And I'll show you this, because this took me a moment, and mine are completely out of order. Part of my gutting disaster. I did not realize how specified these were, and a lot of them spilled out. But if we can get a zoom in here, so if you can see it, hopefully the camera's going to focus. The tip of this gate actually curves out just a little bit right there. I know that's probably pretty hard to see. And the other one has the same thing. Oh, there, you can see it pretty well there, how it kind of curves. And these basically have to go together like that. So that little curve bit runs inside. And you can see, hopefully, here, if we can I get that good focus going again that we had a moment ago? Yeah. That little curve basically enables this little side slider piece to hang over a little bit onto the one beside it. So these are shared such as they are in like that then. And of course what happens is our key goes in, and if it's aligned properly, it should line up those pieces like I showed you, but mine are out of order. But now what makes this really finicky is these share a spring, and that is where that little side overhang comes into play, because these springs, hopefully I can do this without losing one, run in between each of those, and they hook a little bit on to that overhang piece. So each one of these, you have to basically, what you've got to do is load one, run the spring through the middle, and then come in on the other side of that spring, which is not easy to do, and get your other one in place and catch the other end of that spring. So what we would have, if we could see through this and it was together properly, was we would see a spring running across here that both of these squeeze in and out on, and of course the spring is putting its pressure that way. So it's trying to expand those gates out. Oh, damn it, did I just lose? Okay, I see it. Now, when it's in the actual lock, it's going to be difficult to show you because I'm only using one of them and it's not under spring tension. But it's actually pretty easy to see the little silver piece over on this side, and you can hit it with your pick fairly easily and see that it wants to slide, or that you can slide it that direction. And that was part of what threw me off with picking it, because I started looking at that part where it said 6 slide locking, and I started thinking, oh, maybe it only has 6, and are they really just that prevalent that you can just see them right there and you can just run down them? But after a lot of experimenting, I realized, no, I was initially right. There was a lot more going on inside there than I'd thought. And I thought, you know what, let's take one of these apart and see what's going on inside it. So yeah, there's just a brief little look. I have somehow, though, got to, I'll point that little tab there, of course, it's on the inside of these gates, is the part that's interacting with the key. So yeah, I've got to figure out what order these 12 actually go in. No small task. And I've got a feeling I'm going to be spending a large chunk of today hunched over this thing and swearing as these springs pop in and out and I try to get it all reassembled and working. I'm actually to the point that I'm thinking, you know what, why don't I just cut this off, chuck all this into a bag, and say fuck it, order a new one. So if you're wondering though about these 2 pins, once that whole thing is together, it slides through here. Each of these one pin each is dropped down into these holes here. They're capped off with a spring, and then that holds it all down. Now the lock will still hold and still turn and everything without those pins in there. Of course, I mean, that's, you know, what it is, but yeah, the lock will still sort of function with those 2 pins out of there. From a I guess just kind of test picking standpoint, you could take those out and do it down that far, I guess, because your sidebar is still going to be in there. So yeah, there we go. Just a brief look at the Neogor, I guess. He seems quite happy with his lock, as he should be. And these are neat. I mean, you know, and this is another reason I often say, you know, the belts are really cool on the subreddit, and the belt list is really cool. But get off the beaten path, you know, and you can find some really neat things that are easy picks or really tough picks. You know, just pick locks as you find them. There's some cool stuff out there that's not always listed. But yeah, there we go. I hope you enjoyed that somewhat. And yeah, I've got my work cut out for me. You all have a good one.